And if we look at every single goal and every single shot in the Premier League from last year, we soon see that essentially shots come from close in and central. So as much as some of the more memorable goals in football and some of the goals that we might think about growing up or think about as our favourite ever goals, they might come from 25 and 30 yards out in tight angles and bend into the top corner. The fact is that in real world elite level football, almost all goals or a huge proportion of goals come from central areas and inside 12 yards. So if we look at the two-player shot maps again, you notice the gold zone or the danger zone, which is highlighted here, which is essentially anything central within the width of the 6-yard box inside the box. And Raheem Sterling is a completely different player to Willian when you look at the shot locations. And although they may have differing skill sets to an extent, i.e. one of them might be a little bit better at this or better at that, the fact of the matter is that Raheem Sterling has the ability to get shots off from inside this zone, and Willian generally doesn't. And that's what gives Raheem Sterling his goal-scoring threat.
Some great stuff there from Ollie. So once we know that information and once we get a picture of that's how goals are scored, how do we then go back with our teams and work on that there? So there's a couple of ways we can do this, and there's a couple of things that I want to challenge. You can obviously take your number 9 or your centre forward and go out and do isolated work in front of goal in that area and get a bag of balls and hit shots. And there is a place for that, of course, absolutely. There is technique involved in this here. You can also then play a 5v5 game and get 2 number 9s in front of either goal and get them the repetition to do that there. But I think the drawback with both of these exercises is that if you rely only on them, the limitations are that the centre forward is already in that zone. So the challenge in the game is how to get them into the zone whenever they're not there and they're supposed to be. And that can be very, very difficult. So this was an interview from Gary Lineker, who's one of the greatest goal scorers of all time now. He does a lot of work on TV. And I thought this is absolutely a brilliant assessment of that right place, right time mentality.
My anticipation, if you like. I think people often say about a player that scores goals, he was in the right place at the right time. That's true, but the answer to that is to be in the right place all the time. And if you're there eventually, and the thing about it is, I'll try and explain how to score goals now, but it's all about making runs and movement in the box, and obviously the pace that helps. The thing I always do is I make a run, and I'll decide I'll just take a chance to go for a space. I'll make sure I get there in front of the defender, and then if the ball comes to me, well, that's great. So if I make 15, 20 of those runs in a game and the ball comes to me once and I'm all on my own 2 yards out from goal, everybody will say, well, he's in the right place at the right time. But the answer is to be in that place all the time. Then eventually when the ball does come to the right place, you're there.
Being at the right place at the right time all the time. I just think that's a brilliant interview, brilliant little insight from a great centre forward. So the challenge is to get that forward into those areas at all times, and I think this is a really underestimated or undervalued part of the game. So when we look at clips today and we see goals that are scored in these zones, it looks like they're tap-ins and it looks like there's not a lot to it. But do we overvalue the 1 in 1,000 shot that was struck from long range and flies into the top corner, and undervalue the significance or the work rate or the mentality that it takes for this forward to get into these areas all the time, again and again? So I'm going to use a quick example here of Sam Kerr at Chelsea. This is Sam's shot map, and you can see here there's a lot going on in that central area that Ollie was talking about. So if we look at the highlights and we see her goals, it looks as if she just hangs out and she's a goal poacher and she stays in those areas. But when you watch the game and when you look at the different angles that we can get, we can see that there's a little bit more to it than that. So a couple examples here. Chelsea are in blue, of course. Win the ball here against West Ham. Sam's on the far side of the picture. You can see her here putting her hand up. So she's outside the box. She's looking at getting across that defender on the weak side, who's well aware that she's there. You can see that movement and the aggression of her movement and the speed of her movement to take that area. Similar position. She's not on the screen at all. She's back there. She's got to get in that zone fairly quickly. And again, that area that Ollie talked about, she attacks that area. Misses this time with the header. Same game. That's her there. Again, it's in transition. She makes two movements here that are small but quite significant. First is to look for the ball, and the second one is to keep going after she passes it off. And she's all alone. Taps it in. Looks easy, but she's done a fair bit of work there. This here, as soon as the ball's played into the space, you can see here she goes from an area of support. She's got a lot of ground to make up here. But again, the willingness to do this work and to win this race separates her. Again, but the movement is unbelievable. There's not a lot of forwards who can make up this ground and pull away like this. She does this again and again and again, and that's why she scores so many goals. This is against Manchester City as well. You see here she's just at the top of the screen. So similar to the last clip, this was about 2 or 3 weeks after it. Again, she's got to get into that area, and her willingness and her aggression to get in that area gives her a simple goal. And then this one here, this is what we get on a highlight. You know, tap in, oh, that's an easy goal. I could have scored that myself. And this is why coaches need video and need access to looking at this and encouraging players to look at this, because when you look at it from a different angle, that's her there on the far end, or the closest to the screen. She's got to get into that zone, but she's also got to win a physical battle here with the fullback, who knows she's there and is trying to block her run. So it's not just a speed race, it's also a physical battle once she gets in that zone. And the willingness and the ability to win those races time and time again. And if it's a physical battle to get in front of a fullback, then they've got to do that there. So it becomes a big psychological test as well for a centre forward. This is a clip from an interview that Chicharito did with Rio Ferdinand over the lockdown. Just again, gives you a little insight into the mentality that it takes for someone to, you look at movement and just think it's a bit of luck, or look at movement and think it's a bit of speed. But in reality, it's certainly a psychological component for these players as well.
And when we talk about movement of strikers, and for me as a defender, strikers that are moving all the time, especially when the ball is wide, is a nightmare to play against. Who taught you how to move like this?
It's being how I'm going to beat that guy. How I'm going to take advantage of you. Even, and you can see me even the workout sometimes, and I still do it. But and I'm going to say this, and people are going to complain. But it's like even when in the fitness works, when they say I'm going to go a little bit, when the fitness guys start 3, 2, when I hear 1, I try to get, because I know I'm beating you. I'm beating you. But the thing is, I'm going to maintain that, because if not, it doesn't matter if I not do it. So always in my mind is being like, try to be more clever, think ahead of someone. So in that moment, I was thinking like, let's do this movement of like, I'm coming to the ball and then I go back. And that depends. If the ball comes, great. If it doesn't come.
So you're talking about like opposite movements. So coming to the ball and then running.
Exactly.
So for instance, when someone like Carrick or Scholes have the ball, that's when you start to move like that.
So when the physical and the speed is mixed with that mentality and that awareness piece and that timing piece, becomes very difficult to defend against. So you can see here the USC centre forward is drifting into a central position on the weak side of the centre back. Now the centre back knows that she's on the weak side, so she has got a decision to make or a problem. She can look at her or look at the ball. She probably can't look at both. And the centre forward is going to see the ball, see the space, and then just gets in front of her, and it's a brilliant finish. But that's the mixture of timing, the mixture of getting in the right areas, and then the mixture of that technique as well, because it's a great finish.